episode of Sell Any Biz, Just Business Talk podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurs, business brokers, and people who are involved in merger and acquisitions. Today, we have a very special guest, all the way from United States, Mr. Adam Hoeksema. He's a he's a founder of a company called ProjectionHub, which deals in financial reporting, preparing SBA loans application, and financial modeling for SME and the companies who are looking to acquire SBA loan or the other financial products. So we're going to dive into a conversation and understand about his business model, and we're going to go through some of the financial numbers as well. So thank you, Adam. Thank you for joining me today. How are you? And we're pretty excited to have you on the show. To kickstart the conversation, please tell us about the Projection Hub and how you got started and what the Projection Hub is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. So I started as an SBA lender back in 2010, and we would often ask our clients for financial projections. We worked with quite a few startups and early stage businesses where projections were kind of extra important, and my clients always had trouble filling out. We tried different templates and tools, and clients just always really struggled with that. So it was actually back in 2012. I was working actually on my personal taxes and using a tax software, that TurboTax, that kind of walks you through, creating or filling out your taxes. And I thought maybe there should be something like that for creating projections, a software that would walk you through that. So I called my brother, who was a software engineer at the time, and said, "Hey, you want to build this thing with me?" So we built a first version of the software, and we tried that. We wanted that monthly recurring revenue, that because every business wants that monthly recurring revenue. But over time, we realized projections are a thing you need at a point in time, like when you're raising capital from investors or lenders.
Okay.
And also Excel is still pretty good. So we kept building out more features in the software, and it was like, we're just replicating Excel. What are we doing here? So it took us, I was pretty stubborn. And so it took me a long time to realize that, what our customers really wanted was just customized projection templates and then help filling them out and customizing them. So that's kind of what our business is today. We have about 125 different industry-specific financial projection templates. Okay. So from a coffee shop to a trucking business to a software company, and so we'll sell those templates, and then some of those clients that buy the template will say, "Hey, could you just fill this thing out for me? Here, could you customize this?" So that's what we do.
The portal, yeah. And then select the template you're looking for, pay, download, and then you fill up all the information. In the end, you generate a PDF or Word or whatever format you want, right? So that's how it works. Correct? Okay, amazing. Great.
Yep. So clients can do that on their own, buy the template, fill it out. There's a video that walks them through how to do it. And
companies which are based in US, or they can cater to a wider audience all around the world. Okay.
Yeah, we have customers all around the world. We can change currencies in the templates, and update different structures. So sometimes folks will have us update like a VAT tax if they have that in their jurisdiction, or so sometimes we'll have to make small customizations, but the templates are all also fully unlocked and editable, so that clients, if you feel comfortable with Excel, playing around with Excel, you can play around and customize it yourself as well.
Great. So tell me about your the templates. I've seen that one of your service or your templates are SBA funding. You facilitate. So tell me a little bit more about SBA funding, your templates, and how does it work, and how do you support someone who's looking into acquiring a business using SBA?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I mentioned, my background was in SBA lending, and for a long time when with Projection Hub, I was just kind of assuming all of our clients already had an SBA lender lined up when they came to us.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, the lender told them they needed projections, and so they Googled or went on YouTube and found us, and that's But it turns out, as I've been talking to more and more of our clients, I realize that oftentimes they don't actually have a lender lined up, or they're not too confident about the process, and so we've been trying to figure out, how do we step into that process a bit more to help with that. I think a lot of our clients are. I think there's kind of they're either a startup or they're looking to acquire a business, and so in either case, whether it's a startup or a business acquisition, the SBA is going to
Mm-hmm.
require projections. Uh, a lot of times, if it's an existing business, they don't require SBA won't require projections. They'll just base it off of historical financial statements. Um, so that's been kind of our focus is on the startup and acquisition side. Um, we one of the things that I like to point out to a lot of our startup, I think it's relevant for acquisition as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's the down payment, or how much cash the client is going to need to have on hand. I think a lot of times people will watch a video online and
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
hear
We
about
hear that
somebody
a lot. Yeah,
who bought a
we
business
hear
for
this a lot.
no money down, or something like that, 100% finance, and then yeah, and so they get into that mindset, and then they have kind of unrealistic
Yeah.
expectations that that's probably maybe that's possible, but that's not normal. And um, so a lot of times what I'm trying to do on the front end on the loan side is just say, okay, well, how much capital do you have? If you've got $100,000 available, what I like to suggest is that you need to take half of that and use that as your down payment for the business, and take the other half, and that's kind of your excess savings or
Mm-hmm.
liquidity that the bank is probably going to want you to have. They
Yeah.
don't want you to take your last dollar and put it into the down payment. So they expect you to have something left over, and that's something I don't think people realize. So I like to think about before you even get into the projections or any of that, just making sure you're kind of thinking about the right
Right.
size of business opportunity based on the cash that you have. So whatever you have to invest, kind of
Mm-hmm.
do the math and figure out, okay, I should be
Yeah.
looking for a business that's
Yeah.
500,000 or a million.
Exactly.
Maybe I
Yeah.
don't have what
Yeah.
it takes to
Okay. So prior
right
to
now to
working in Projection
acquire a
Hub, you worked for a
$5 million
couple of
business
years
just
in
yet. So
facilitating the
yeah.
SBA loans. So I mean, I live in Dubai, and that's where my business brokerage company is also based. We are one of the largest business brokerage in UAE, and so we kind of struggle here. I mean, there are no any uh, the products offered by the bank which similar to SBA, small business acquisition. The banks, they don't lend you money unless you're an owner of a business for 12 months minimum, and then you have a balance sheet and P&L, and based on that balance sheet and P&L, you can get lending and you can get into
Hmm.
this system. So which really kind of challenging for us sometimes to find buyers. So we only have cash buyers. So if you don't have 100% upfront, you cannot acquire a business in UAE. So often we get
Hmm.
these people who comes with no money down concept from US, UK, different countries who've learned there. I don't know if it happens there. So they come here, and then there are no deals available in that concept. So tell me about SBA. If someone uh, is based outside of US, let's say any of our listeners in UAE or any other country, is this also accessible for those, or it's only accessible for US? And what are the main points to be eligible to acquire a business using an SBA?
Yeah, so I think it's been a little while since I've been doing the SBA lending directly, but I think it's fair to say that you would need to get an SBA loan. You're going to have to live in the U.S. Don't think you have to be a citizen, but you would have to, you could be here, legally. As long as you're legally here in the U.S., you would be eligible for an SBA loan. So, yeah, I think um, that's a challenge, and interesting to hear you say that you really have to be 100% cash buyer. Um, do I'm kind of curious if business owners that are looking to
Very,
sell, do they
very
do any
little.
seller financing, where
Unless and until the buyer
they don't
is
like
an
doing seller
established
financing
bureau
either?
who has already
Yeah,
a presence in the country or has the several business and they have some kind of a collateral. If it's not in a form of property or a guarantee, there's some type of a collateral in terms of goodwill or reputation where they know. But if someone just walks in and say, "Hey, I've been working all my life, and suddenly I've decided I've watched one of my YouTube videos, and I decided to buy a business. Can you please sell me your business which you've been running for the last 30 years? And look, I'm gonna do better than you. I'm gonna hire a manager in place of you. He's gonna make me money, and then I'm gonna pay myself, and I'm gonna pay you as well." No, it's not possible. It's not realistic. I mean, you cannot
yeah,
replace the self-employed owner who's been
yeah,
doing that thing for 30 years, and you expect that you're going to replace him with a manager, and that manager is going to earn you a wage as well as the previous owner as well himself as well. It's not real. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I love how you say that. When you
Yeah.
say it
Exactly.
that way, you kind of realize the how absurd that sounds. But
Yeah.
we
Small
I
business
see that
ownership is
I see
tough.
that all the
It's
time.
a grind.
That's
You
kind
have
of
to
people
work.
come in with that
You
expectation.
have to
Yeah,
put yourself in it. You can't afford to have
yeah,
a manager, or you cannot afford a wage of a good manager that a small business can pay off. Yes, it's a larger business, yes, maybe, but like a laundromat or a cleaning company, or all these small businesses, we see that people are trying to acquire using no money down formula. It doesn't work. Yeah. So coming back to your point, yes, the seller consideration of financing might be available given that fact. If the buyer is much bigger than the seller, it's a group, and they're there, okay, they say, all right, we're going to acquire your company. Here is 50%,
sure,
50% will pay you in 2 years, and here are reputation or guarantee or whatever. Yes, the seller will be open for it, but not to the new buyers or the first time buyers. It has to be all upfront. Yeah. So tell me about your
yeah.
your templates, like sorry, excuse me, for SBA funding. So um, someone who's applying for SBA funding, they need your what? How many templates do they need from your Project Hub website, which they need to attach to their application? What are the main ones?
Yeah, so there's really, if it's a startup, then we usually have an industry specific template. So if you're starting a dental office, we've got a dental clinic template, and you'd probably use that in it. And that tends to kind of go from the bottoms up. So it's kind of like base level assumptions about, how many patients are you going to have, and what kind of services will they utilize, and how often, and that. So those sorts of like bottom up assumptions. For acquisitions, we have just one kind of industry agnostic acquisition template that allows you to put in the historical financial information from the seller, and then use that kind of as the baseline to project going forward. And so you could, you know, put in the terms of the deal, and then ultimately it will like calculate, for example, a debt service coverage ratio. And at least for SBA, they would typically want to see like a 1.25 or above debt service coverage ratio. So, for the listeners, what that would mean is basically you have $1.25 of cash flow, or profit for every dollar of loan payments or debt service that you have. And so a lot of times what we're helping people with in the acquisition process and where the financial projections come in is they have a
Yeah.
proposed deal with the seller. They said we're going to pay $1 million for your business, and then they go through and do the projections, and they out comes the debt service coverage ratio, and it's 0.5. And so then we go back to the buyer and say, hey, this doesn't work, it doesn't cash flow. And so a lot of times it's, then we're saying, okay, you really need to go back to the seller and say, hey, this price point doesn't work, or the buyer's going to need to come up with more equity and borrow less to somehow make those numbers pencil. So that's a lot of what we're helping clients, determine
Okay.
with
Do you
the
provide
projections on
API
acquisition, and that
maybe
acquisition template
enterprise
helps with that.
customers like such as business brokerage companies as ours? So if do you have that solution with your platform?
No, we haven't done that. No, what we will do with we do have some partners that where they're really just kind of utilizing our service,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, human powered. Like, so our team is, uh, you know, asking questions about the deal, and then getting the template, doing the data entry, getting the
Okay.
historical financials input, getting the
Okay.
structure of the
So you
deal
don't have
input
an
into the
API.
model, and
So you don't have an
and
API or
providing
white
that
label.
to the
Well, no
client.
white
So
label
we
also.
have some partners that will no
Okay. You
API.
planning to do that somewhere in the future? White labeling your
No, not right now. I don't know. I mean, we started as the software tool, and so, but today we're mostly just, working on Excel. Excel spreadsheet templates is our starting point. Um, so,
Mm-hmm.
it could be that I think I did things backwards. I started with software and then
Yeah.
went to spreadsheets. And I probably, if I was smart, I would have started with spreadsheets, built up, gotten to the point where,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now we really understand the business and the market. We could actually build a software solution
Okay.
that would make sense. So maybe in the future
So
we'll try to,
what
uh,
what triggered you
build a
to
software
go
solution that could
backwards?
have a
Why
API
didn't you continue
integration.
building a SaaS or a software product rather than a spreadsheet manual work?
Yeah. So it was about probably 2018. So we started the business in 2012. We're kind of focused on the software till
Mm-hmm.
2018, and all the while I still had my day job running this SBA loan program, um, and what we kept running into is customers liked the idea of the software. Everyone wanted a software tool to just kind of do things for them, right? But what kept ending up happening is a customer, would say, "Hey, can I add this in here? Or can I do this?" And, oh, sorry, we can't really. The software is too rigid. It's not flexible enough to do whatever it is that you need it to do. And so we'd say, let's just pull you
Okay.
out into Excel. We'll just build something custom for you in Excel. And so I started doing that on my own nights and weekends. And then I got too busy doing that. And so ended up hiring a CPA, Grace, who kind of took over that role. And as she started, she built a custom model for a coffee shop. Then we said, well,
Yeah.
why don't we just put this coffee shop template up for sale on the website and see what happens? And over the next year, we built out a bunch of these templates, and it turned out it probably wasn't within 18 months, our spreadsheet template
Yeah.
sales were like 10 times more than our software monthly software
Yeah.
sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we kind of
So
took that as,
currently,
okay, I guess the
yeah. So
customer
currently,
has
how it works
spoken.
is so
You
customer
know,
comes,
they
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 input their
they
data,
like
it goes to your back office team, you process it, and you do it, and then you send it, right? No, it's not instant, correct? Am I right?
So there's two, there's kind of two options. So one, you could just buy the template, and it's an Excel file. It's going to be delivered to you. It's fully unlocked. It's yours to keep, and you can fill it out on your own. And that's a one-time price. And those templates are about $100 a piece. And so that's the majority of our clients. We have about 300 people a month that will buy just individual template, and they're kind of doing the data entry on their own, following a video to help them. And then there's about 50 clients a month or so that will say, hey, I don't have time for this, or I don't like Excel, or I need to customize something. Can I just tell you my plans? Can I just tell you give you my information, and then you will fill it out and customize it? So that's where our team would get involved on, about 50 of those projects a month.
You custom quote the client, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have kind of a standard, we call our projection template fill out service for $750, where we'll, that's if if you're starting a restaurant, well, we've got a good starting point with a restaurant template. And so we can kind of give a fixed price for that. We kind of understand what we're getting ourselves into. Sometimes if we don't have a good template as a starting point, that's where we'd say, okay, we need to give a custom quote. Or somebody might say, I want to open 5 car washes, and I want them all in the same model, but then each one have individual financial statements or something, that we don't have a good starting point for. So we're just going to have to customize something.
Templates can be reused, right? If I buy a template for one, and then I can use it again for something. So it means that you don't have many repeated customers, right? Do you? So if someone buys the one, so every time you have to find so how do you market? How do you find your customers?
Yeah, that's great. So that is the downside of the business, is that we do have to go out and find our customers kind of every day. And so what we have been pretty successful with historically is, it really mostly started with Google. So we just wrote a bunch of content about all sorts of different, startup businesses and financial related content. So we have a pretty healthy organic website traffic. But I'd say it's shifting more and more that YouTube is kind of the primary driver of traffic. And so we're getting, we have a YouTube channel, and we have over 500 videos that we've done over the years, and every single template has its own video. So if somebody goes to YouTube and says, dental, projections for a dental office, or how to do that, we're probably going to pop up and they'll see our template and then, could buy. So that tends to be how we get a lot of our customers. And then also, I'd say more recently, working with SBA, or just business lenders in general, where they have a client that they're trying to help, they want to help, but the client's struggling with the projections, and
I don't know,
they'll send them our way to kind of get them prettied up for the underwriter.
So you can maybe do the bookkeeping for small businesses. They all need that service. I don't know US, but here everybody needs bookkeeping. So I think if you extend your scope of service also to bookkeeping, that can also give you a repeated client or a longer subscription-based customer. So once you acquire a customer for a template, so offer them also bookkeeping. Hey, do you want us to keep everything tracked from now? You'll get all our services if you give us your bookkeeping. So I don't know. It's just a thought that might.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I have thought, I've thought in the past about, maybe we should acquire a small, bookkeeping business that already has that kind of infrastructure and team, put together, that we could just then, we're already getting the customer before they have a bookkeeping service set up typically. And so that's why they're probably coming to us. So we're doing the work to acquire those customers, but only getting that one-time payment. So it's definitely something on my mind.
Okay,
I
great. Yeah, we can talk about SBA
haven't pulled
for
the trigger
hours.
on that yet,
It's a
but
very wide topic. So tell me anything else, any other topic you want to talk about, which gets you excited, or which about your business, which you want to put out here on our show for our listeners.
yeah, I think one of the things that I've been excited about is just helping people. I think it's really pretty simple, both in acquisition and startup. I was kind of talking about this before, but I think um, I wrote a LinkedIn post about this the other day that even the SBA, I think, kind of gets this wrong. So SBA has this article that says like 10 steps to start a small business. And they start by saying, research the market, then write a business plan, then go get funding. And I kind of think that they have that backwards. I think the way to think about it is to say, where am I at personally? Where am my personal financial situation at? How much savings do I have? And that should really set the stage for, um, you know, what kind of opportunity I could go after. So I don't know how it is in UAE, but in the US, if you're going to go buy a house, you you
Mm-hmm.
don't um, you don't go find your dream plot of land and have an architect draw up a dream home and then go to the bank. You first go to the bank and you say, okay,
Same.
here's my financial
Mm-hmm.
situation, how much could I qualify for?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the bank tells you, okay, it could be, here's your budget, this should be your budget based on your situation. Now go shop in those neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that happens in small business or acquisitions a lot of times, where people they waste a bunch of time planning or thinking about
Mm.
deals that they're just not in a position to
So
be
it
able
makes
to
me.
execute on yet, based on their personal financial situation. So I'm
Mm.
trying to think through, like, how do you bring that like pre-qualification of a mortgage loan
It's a great
idea
idea. I mean, similarly, you
to
have a
small
business
business to help
valuation,
them
so
think that
there
way?
should be something to pre-qualify the buyer as well. So the business has a valuation report, and the buyer has their personal net worth, or if they really can buy a business. I think it's a
Yeah,
fantastic idea. So, I mean, there should be a body, or I don't know, in US you have that I don't know, DUNS something, which verify the business information, DUNS something, so something like that, a database or something, that if you're going to start
yeah,
look
done.
for to acquire a business, you need to go
Hmm.
through that process, follow that up, and you need to bring your your credit worthiness, or actually what is your plan of how are you going to raise funds, how much you have SBA, how much you're going to borrow, how much you want. So bring that report and then start looking for a business. So that can save a lot of time. For us, it's the same as a business brokerage, where 80% of our leads are time wasters. So the rest 20, so a lot of time or is you know getting wasted on the leads which are not actually eligible to buy a business. So yeah, so you have a very very good point here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think along that same line, like, I think people then don't realize, when you get to that, what I don't want to do is like discourage people that, oh, because my personal financial situation is not where I want it to be, that I can't acquire a business or I can't start a business. From my time working as SBA lender, one of my favorite clients started with a $5,000 microloan, and they were buying truckloads of returned merchandise. So
Mm-hmm.
from like Amazon, especially around like the holidays, people would return items, and then Amazon's got all this excess inventory. What do they do with it? So they sell it to, these kind of wholesale liquidators, and then they piece it out. So anyway, this client came to us looking to just get one truckload of merchandise, and it was, $5,000 was all they needed. And they did that, and they sold that, and then they got another one, they sold that, and they kept doing it. And 5 years later, they were in like 100,000 square foot warehouse doing, you know 20 truckloads a day of this
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
business. And so it just goes to show
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
you don't it's okay if you don't
Yeah.
have $1 million
Exactly.
laying around. You
Yeah.
don't need that.
Yeah.
Actually, you could start a business for
Yeah.
5 grand
Just to
with
add on
with
the
some
marketing side,
creativity.
so
So yeah.
we connected through LinkedIn. So how does LinkedIn helping you to get clients? Does it help? Do you reach a lot of business owner? I see that you're very active on LinkedIn as well. So tell me about LinkedIn. How you're using it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've enjoyed LinkedIn. I think I've been narrowing in on what works well on LinkedIn. I don't think I think what works well on YouTube is I'm going to be able to get directly to my customer. I'm going to get to the dentist who's looking to do projections for a loan. They're going to go on YouTube and find us and find our template. On LinkedIn, what seems to work better is uh, that's a place to connect with referral partners. So connecting with bankers,
Mm-hmm.
folks like yourself, connecting with insurance agents or whoever that might be that might have clients that could use our help.
Mm-hmm.
Those seem to be the
Yeah.
people that are hanging out on LinkedIn or who I can you know communicate well with. So that's I've been meeting a lot of small business lenders on LinkedIn, and there's kind of a natural
Mm-hmm.
like they know we have
Right. Okay.
they know we have clients that are doing projections, so they're
Great.
interested in connecting
It's
with me,
it's a
and
win-win.
I'm interested in
It's a
connecting with
win-win.
them too because we could provide a service to their
Mm-hmm.
clients, and
Great. Amazing.
so it works. Yeah, so that's
Adam,
been
tell
working
me
pretty
about
well.
your career. What are the things you're proud of? In your career so far, what are your major achievements are?
Yeah, I think one of the fun things, and it's a fond memory that I will have, is when I started at the SBA lender. I was the first kind of employee. We hadn't made our first loan yet, and so we're we're making these small loans. Micro loans was kind of the main program that we had, so up to $50,000 was kind of at least the program we started with, and we grew into larger loans. But the first several years, it was primarily these microloans, and I was straight out of college when they hired me, and so I didn't know what I was doing, but I was curious and excited to try to build out this thing. And so uh, we built up our loan program. I was hiring, interns at like
Mm-hmm.
college kids, and you know, we had a very young team. We didn't really know what we were doing per se, but we were smart in trying to figure it out. And I think by 2016, so I started in 2010. By 2016, we had become the second
Mm-hmm.
largest SBA micro lender in the country based on our loan volume that year. And so that was always, uh, you know, it was just
Yeah.
exciting because it was like, wow, we've got a bunch of kids in their 20s that had, figured out how to do this. And we were making pretty good loans. I mean, you might
Mm-hmm.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, we just made a lot of loan volume, but they all defaulted. We actually
Yeah.
had pretty good, default rate level was reasonable, and so, um, but we did kind of end up hitting like a challenge of, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
we kind of got to the peak of
Yeah.
what I could manage and our
Right.
where we
Great.
needed to get to that next
So
level, and that
there
was
seems to
I
be a
found that to be a lot
trend
harder, but
post-COVID that people wants to be a business owner. They're shifting to trend 9 to 5. A lot of young people wants acquiring a business, or at least looking in acquiring a business, and that's where a lot of the YouTube content comes in. People are teaching and motivating. Okay, be a business owner, acquire a business, do a business. Well, you cannot become rich by working for someone, and that becomes a lot of the lot of young people are coming in this game. So tell me your thoughts of about this shift, and how do you see Projection Hub will benefit or support those people who are just getting into a business? So yeah, how are you seeing that shift?
yeah. Yeah, well, I was, even just before our call, I was just reviewing some of the SBA loan
Mm-hmm.
data over the last couple of years because our federal year ended at the end of September, so it just kind of finished for the year, and the the data that the SBA had published, uh, the number of SBA loans closed last federal year was just over 70,000, which was a 22% increase over the prior year, over 2023, and it was the highest
Mm-hmm.
number of closed loans I had seen in dating back to 2017, and so
Mm-hmm.
that kind of surprised me because our interest rates are much higher than they have been traditionally, and so that
Mm-hmm.
just kind of
So
goes
do
to
you
show that
know?
there's something in the water. So, you know,
Hmm.
people are wanting to start a business, or people are
Do
wanting
you
to
have any
acquire a
idea?
business, or
Yeah.
there's
Do you have
there's
any
something
idea
going
about
on
how many total
there.
businesses
And
are
yeah, I
closed?
think
Like the percentage of SBA and the cash buyers or other form of funding? No.
that's a good question. I'd kind of gone down that rabbit hole before, um, because I was seeing this, this content about the silver tsunami, or the, people getting to retirement age, business owners getting to retirement age, and wanting to sell. And when you look at those numbers, it's a staggering number. And so I was kind of trying to work backwards and say, okay, well, how many SBA loans, um, you know, are there going for acquisitions? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, there were 70,000 SBA loans last year
Mm-hmm. Okay.
total. Most of those were not used for acquisitions, certainly. Um, Most of them were probably for existing businesses, growth capital for existing businesses, or buying a new piece of equipment, or real estate or something. So um, a small percentage of that would be
Mm-hmm.
acquisitions, which, let's say it was 10,000 of those 70,000 were acquisition loans. That gets you nowhere
Mm-hmm.
close to the
Yeah.
numbers that it seems like we would need, um, to
Mm-hmm.
just help all the people that are wanting to retire and pass on their business. So I'm not sure. I've kind of gone down the same question. It seems like there must be a
Yeah.
large percentage of
Last time I
businesses
checked,
that are,
yeah, last time I checked was I think
changing
there was
hands
2,000 something businesses
without an SBA
currently
loan.
listed for sale in US. So I mean, given that, if if you see that 26,000 businesses are listed all the time, and so this gives a quite a lot of numbers. I think probably 100,000 plus acquisitions. I don't know. Could I think it'll be interesting to know that figure. How many businesses are sold in total? I don't know. Biz Buy Sell has this data or no? They're collecting all the data for businesses sold.
Yeah, I've looked at Biz by Sell. They do publish uh, some
Mm-hmm.
data as well, and I kind of went down that rabbit hole looking at. But even when you did the math there, it was like, I mean, Biz by Sell seems to be like the biggest marketplace probably in the U.S., or listing site in the U.S. at
Mm-hmm.
least, and it's still a small number compared to the millions
Yeah.
of business owners that supposedly are going to want to transition, or sell their business in the next, 5 to 10 years. So yeah, I mean, it leaves a question of what is going to happen. Is are those businesses just shutting
What's the
down,
chance? Yeah.
or are they just, you know
Yeah.
they're cash
Yeah.
buyers under the radar, not being
So
listed or
every
sold to a friend
entrepreneur
or family or
face
something? I'm not really
face
sure.
challenges during their business journey. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 17 when I started my first business, and since then it's been a roller coaster, failure, good time, bad times. So you talked about your, downtime in Bankable, your previous venture. So how are you? What are some of the lessons you've learned, and how are you applying those lessons in your current company uh, to avoid those mistakes you've made? along the way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it kind of goes along with the story of how we grew really fast and to becoming that top SBA lender, and it was with a lot of you know kids right out of school and
Yeah.
didn't have
Mm-hmm.
professional experience, but that was what we could afford to hire, and we did pretty good, but we got to a point where I didn't have any, seasoned management team. And I also had not, I was a first time manager as well. And so I didn't really know any better. I was just I kept hiring, and then I would try to manage everybody. It was like I would
Yeah.
try to be the direct report, have direct report. Everyone was reporting to me, um, and that probably got to about, I don't know, 12 people or something. It was like, I'm just,
Yeah.
this is not working. I'm a horrible manager for everybody because I'm trying to spread myself too thin. And so realize that, okay, we need to have some a management layer. But just where we were at, it was not
Mm-hmm.
really a situation where I could just go out and hire middle manager. Um, so I just had to kind of uh, move up from within the existing team. And I think what I realized is that a challenge, I still don't know if I have a solution to this, but it's just a challenge in business, is that somebody who is really good at their job and maybe the best at doing the
I
task
agree. I
is
agree.
not necessarily the best
I
at
absolutely
being
agree.
the manager, being a manager of people. And so, but the challenge was, you
Mm-hmm.
want to give raises or promotions to the people that are managing people, but you also want to reward the person that's
Yeah.
really good, doing a good job at, closing loans, or, finding loans, marketing, sales.
Yeah.
Um, so I really struggled to figure out what that should look like. And I think ended up,
Mm.
having, uh, having people in a management position that probably they were good at their job, but they probably should have just been focused on that and not managing people. And um, so lesson learned on that, and trying to figure out what that looks like. We're kind of getting to that point at ProjectionHub where I think we're at
Mm-hmm.
9 staff members now, and it's like, okay, we're getting to that point where
Mm-hmm.
I
How
need
big is your
I need
team in
managers, and I
Projection
think
Hub?
we have a better. At least I know that now.
Okay, they are all
And
based in
so
US or remote?
we've got 9 people right now. Yeah, we have about half of us
Okay,
in the U.S., and then
amazing.
um,
So I made
yeah,
this
half
mistake
global
talking about
global team members as well.
manager and an employee. I made that mistake over and over again and again in my career, which I've stopped making now. And I've learned some hard lessons where I lost some of the best employees. That where I promoted my top performers to a manager, just to find out that the person who was bringing quite a significant amount of revenue is not bringing revenue anymore because he's been promoted to a manager, and now he's not a good manager, and I've lost him as a revenue engine as well. And then in the end I had to let go the employee. So I made that mistake quite a
Yeah,
few times, because if someone is doing good, you want to reward them, or you want to motivate them further, or you think might be that person could be a good manager. But that I absolutely agree 100%. Management is a different skill than being a good employee. It's not necessarily that the good manager is a good employee as an individual, and as an individual employee
yeah,
performer cannot be a good manager. That's the mistake. Anybody who's listening, who's scaling up, or who's just starting, just don't make that mistake. So hire or evaluate the person based on their skills, not based on if they're good performer or they're very good employees. So fantastic.
yeah. And I think what along those lines, now I think this can work better since I own the company now versus working for an organization. Um, I can make the rules, and if I want to pay the individual performer more than their manager, that might be okay. It feels like there's this kind of rule that the manager always has to make more than
Yeah.
the individual
Hmm.
performer, but I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Yeah.
You could be a great
All right.
individual
Before we
performer
wrap
and you
up,
could deserve to be
we're
paid more.
almost out of time.
So
So my majority of audience is either business brokers or people who are looking to acquire a business or sell a business. This is what this show or podcast is all about. So tell me some of your, um, in Projection Hub, for these people, what can they get from Projection Hub? And yeah, so what do you give them?
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think if you have either if you're representing on the buyer or the seller side, I think particularly our acquisition projection template, which you could get at projectionhub.com, is a good uh, tool that could be useful for clients, especially as they're just kind of planning. Um, how does this deal make sense for me, and at this price, and how I would structure it, and can I come up with the funding and all that sort of thing. So um, certainly, I think that could be helpful. And then yeah, our team is here to help customize or fill that out and
Can your
provide help along
templates
the way
go
if
in
needed.
in
So
due diligence process to feed in the data and kind of or no?
yeah. So I was just working this week with a buyer who is in the due diligence. They had to sign LOI and to acquire a business, and they're in due diligence, and they hadn't really gotten a good set of financials before due diligence process from the seller, and I helped them. Once they got those, they sent along the financials from the seller to us. We put those into our template along with the proposed sale price. And, in their case, they were looking to get an SBA loan, but with the price point of that deal where it
Hmm.
was, the debt service coverage ratio was way too low. It just was not going to cash flow based on historical numbers. So I was able to tell, in that case,
Hmm.
able to tell the buyer, hey, you know, I think they're overpricing this for you. I think it's probably too
Okay.
high based on what it's done historically. It hasn't been
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
profitable historically. So
Hmm.
I don't think you want to
Right.
pay what you originally thought you were going to pay. And so I think that's been helpful for them to kind of go through that process, and they can just be honest to the I told him you could be honest to the seller and say, we're not going to be
Hmm.
able to get any SBA financing. No lender will give us any financing for this. So uh, at the current price point,
Hmm.
because it doesn't cash flow. But if you want to do 100% seller
Yeah.
financing, maybe we would consider still
Right.
doing it at that price point, so they
Adam,
can have a
it's been absolute
negotiation
pleasure having you
there.
on the
So
show
yeah,
today and your insight on SBA, financial projections. Projection app has been fantastic, and I hope this show is going to be valuable for our listeners. And whoever is watching or listening us, please go to projectionhub.com, connect with Adam, try some of their templates for whatever reason you want to use, either to get a loan or planning or pitching your next startup for fundraising or acquiring a business. It's a very useful tool. And signing off from our today's show, please follow us. Our podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you follow your podcast, or YouTube. And see you in next episode. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, Adam. So let me go that.
thank you.
Stop. Okay, so here we are. So you can drink some water now. Yeah.